William C. Davis, United States Army, Vietnam. Folks, what a great story, just from the eyes and ears of another Vietnam veteran. I interviewed Bill in Bethesda, Maryland, where I've gone many times with my work. I produced my Holocaust film in the Silver Spring, Maryland, Bethesda, Maryland area. I've been there with veteran interviews, school programs, just all over the I-95 corridor up to Pennsylvania and down to Virginia. So just what a blessing. To meet Bill there and a lot of the other veterans I interviewed at this time. It was March 2nd, 2008 when I interviewed William Smith. Frank Kafflish, a number of stories from those interviews are already featured on my channel and in my documentary. So I had produced Vietnam in 2007, so Bill missed the cutoff for that, and hopefully someday it'll be a Vietnam too. But just a great story. Bill served with the 2nd of the 501st, 101st Airborne Air Mobile as a radio operator and RTO. Saw a lot of combat, and just from his eyes and ears, I just knew I had a great story here. It's been almost 20 years since I interviewed him. I believe he's still around, and I'm really happy to share it with you today. He actually enlisted into the military on April 15th, 1969, was in Vietnam as a young man in 1970, again with the 101st Airborne. You'll see his hat in this interview. And I only had one picture from Bill, so I'll show it here, probably we'll show it. But I want to give a big thank you to Charles Adams. Charles came forward and wanted to sponsor a story. And his father, Charles V. Adams, was a sergeant in Vietnam. And he just passed away in March at the age of 77. But Charles Sr., if I can call him that, he served with the 159th Assault Helicopter Battalion, 101st Airborne. You know, the Bills and Charles Pass could have crossed, but I think he was there a year earlier. So, but they served in the same division, 101st Airborne. Can't get better than that. And but he was a crew chief on Chinook helicopters, Charles V. Adams, and received two Bronze Stars, Purple Heart, some other air medals and other awards, just distinguished awards for this man. Very decorated soldier in Vietnam. And as Charles Jr. told me, he wished he would have found out about my work sooner, and we could have included him, hopefully, in an interview. But next best thing, Charles, is to to honor your father like this. And I'm happy to do so with some pictures now as you're watching these pictures of his dad. They all were young, soldiers once and young, weren't they? All of them. And just thank you, Charles, for these pictures and a shot of your dad's headstone. He was buried at the Mountain Home National Cemetery in Johnson City, Tennessee. So that's where he was laid to rest. Military honors, full military honors. It really touches my heart when I see that, when a veteran is buried into the ground like they're supposed to be, and honored with the flag draped casket with the pallbearers. No greater honor than you can give a veteran. So I'm thankful, Charles. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your military family, and I hope we can work together again. Hope you enjoy this video. So, okay, folks, that's it. I've gone long enough. Let's honor William Vietnam with this interview. I released a 60-second short video where I'll ask him at the end of this video. You'll hear me ask him, you know, are you proud to be a Vietnam veteran? Obviously, he is. And I included that in its own 60-second short, and hopefully you were notified of that. Very powerful part of this video. So, okay, if you'd like to honor your loved one, folks, I can't interview everybody. So if you have somebody in your family alive or they're gone from this world, I'd be happy to, like I did with Charles Adams' story here, I'd like to share it at the beginning of a story. If you'd like to sponsor a story, get a hold of me. It's easy to get a hold of me. It's all over my videos. I keep saying it every time. It's in the video description, the comment section, and on my website, larrycappetto.com. Get a hold of me, and we can find a story for you to sponsor, and I want to honor your loved one, because I'm never going to meet everybody. And like I said, if they passed away, we can honor them, and I think it'd be fitting, and it behooves us to do this. So history is best learned from those who were there, and everybody's got the story to tell. Amen. Okay, folks, thank you again for subscribing to this channel, for sharing these videos, and I look forward to seeing you on my next broadcast. God bless you. to move a whole lot, okay? And what year did you go in the military? Let me ask you that question first.
I went in the military on April 15th, 1969, into the Army.
Drafted?
No, I was being drafted, so I went to see a recruiter. I tried to get in the Air Force, and I couldn't because they had a waiting list too long. And I went to the Army recruiter, and I said, "What can you do for me?" And he says, "I got a great job for you. It's called radio operator. You'll be on fire bases at the closest to, to the fighting, and probably in the rear, having a good time. And if you go to Vietnam at all." Well, it's true I was on the fire bases, but they weren't quite as safe as he had me convinced. But he was right. I did stay mainly at that level, except when I volunteered to go to the field. And I volunteered to go to the field off of ripcord because I got tired of being mortared and rocketed.
Let's talk about going into Vietnam, Bill. Do you remember the first time you stepped off the plane or whatever in country and what you experienced?
Well, when I was a little taken aback when I stepped off into country, and they did not immediately hand me a weapon. Instead, they put us on buses, and we drove up the highway to Long Binh from Tan Son Nhut, and from Bien Hoa to Long Binh, and then we were in the encampment there waiting for assignment, and we got some mortars or rockets came in a field just off to the edge of where the assignment was, where you got your assignments, and repo depot or whatever they want to call it. And I got my assignment to the 101st and all, which was really, I thought, silly since I wasn't airborne. And they said, well, they're no longer an airborne unit, they're air mobile. And I got up there to the 101st, and they sent me to Camp Sally, which was the base camp for the 2nd and the 501st at the time. But they were busy packing up for move to Phu Bai, which was to be our new base camp. Well, they didn't want me around, so they said, "Do you want to go out to the fire base with this other new sergeant and all?" And I said, "Sure." And we went out to Fire Support Base Jack, which was in the lowlands, but right near the mountains between Camp Evans. Well, this is after P training, which was the first thing you did at Evans when you first got in. As a matter of fact, that's funny because when I was in P training, we went out on the patrol, the mandatory patrol, and our own people mortared us. I don't know whether that was a stage thing or whether it was a mistake, because I told them I was a radio operator, and they made me the RTO on the patrol. And it was really funny because we're getting mortared, and the sergeant in charge is out there saying, cut it out, and like this. He's trying to call it off and like this. So we got off the hill we were on, and the mortars pounded it. And he says, "That's what you do if you're under a mortar attack. You run out from under it. And if you can." But of course, on a fire base, you're surrounded by wire. You have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide except in your bunkers. And they sent me out to Jack. And then after that, we went out to a fire base that had been hit just before we got there and almost overrun. And that was Fire Support Base Granite. And the 2nd and the 506 had almost been overrun there. We kind of teamed with them for most of the rest of my tour. And they, as I was in the 2nd and the 501st, and we went out to Granite. Well, we were there for a while building things up, putting in commo and like that. And about, I'm not sure when it was, 27th, 29th or something like that, we got that night for the first time because my feet were hurting so bad from getting jungle rot that I took my my boots off that night. Right after I took my boots off and went to bed, and it was about 12 o'clock, we got hit. And, explosions started happening at the other end of the fire base near the evac LZ. We had another LZ down below the fire base that was for bringing in supplies and stuff. This was the medevac pad. And they tried to come in through that side, and they got through the wire, and they satchel charged the people in one of the foxholes there on the fire base. And they almost broke through, except for one guy, Takos, managed to get out of his hole with his M60, and he held them back. And I think he blew the foo gas, which is a barrel, 55-gallon barrel full of jelly gasoline. That he blew that, and it kind of stopped the rush for a while. And we were able to hold them off. Now me, I was in my hooch. I'm getting my shoes on, and I put them on the wrong feet. And I come out of the thing, and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. Whether I'm supposed to go to the TOC, which is right behind me, and somebody down in the there's foxhole says, "Get down here," and I jumped in the hole with them. And I was supposed to actually, I found out later, but they hadn't told me beforehand, go to the TOC, get with the reactionary force, and go to where the fighting was. But the next morning, we found 16 dead enemy inside the wire. But during that night, I figured out I was supposed to be somewhere else, and I went up towards where the fighting was, and it was over by this time. But there was a guy that was a mortar platoon person, and his mortar pit had a satchel charge thrown in it, and it had blown him out. He jumped in there to counter battery fire, and it had blown him and another guy out. The one guy was killed, and he had lost his leg at the knee, and his other leg was pretty mangled. Well, the medic says, "Come here and stay with this guy." And I talked to him, and I could see the C-130 putting down covering fire from many guns, but I could also see outside of that orbiting a medevac, a helicopter up there. And after they decided that the enemy was not, finished for the night, about an hour later, they brought the medevac in and during this time, I just held this guy's hand and pointed to the medevac and told him to get out, and he kept saying, "I'm not going to make it." And I said, "Yes, you are," And I didn't know his name or anything, but I hope he made it. But as we were taking him out, I was holding the stretcher, and I don't know whether it was a flare glinted off the rotor blades or what. I thought at the time it was a rocket, and I kind of went to the ground, almost dropped him, and it was one of the things I'm not real proud of. But I reacted, and then everybody looked at me like you're crazy, and they got him onto there was 6 of us carrying him, so it wasn't like I dropped him. They went on past me and got him on the helicopter and got him out of there. And I think he made it. I really think so, because he'd been bandaged and all, and he was scared.
Now, what are you? A rifleman, basically? Is that what you are? Or?
I was a radio man. Okay. What I did was RTO, etc. I installed wire and radio facilities on the fire bases was my main job. That and running the generators at night for the TOC, keeping them running, fueled and all. At the time, the next day on Granite, we were humping rounds up to the artillery because they were firing county bar. We were getting not rockets, but mortars in, and it blew a friend that I'd met in A Company off the latrine and put out his eye, and and he was evacuated. We had this tough old sergeant major, African American, that he got hit three times that morning before he finally let himself be medevaced. The third time was really bad, but he wanted to get his people out, and he was a tough old guy, and I'm sure Colonel Livingston missed him.
Did you see that when that happened with that gentleman, or were you around that? Or?
I was in the helping hump ammunition to the gun pit, okay. But I saw him being patched up at the TOC, which was nearby, twice for minor shrapnel wounds, and they told me that he went out the third time when I asked where he was at the TOC from the sergeant that I was with. He said they had the medevacing because about the final round that they fired at us got him. He was on the medevac pad getting ready to get some people out that had been hit during the day.
Did you lose any friends wounded or killed during this time in Vietnam?
Yeah, I lost the guy that lost his eye. I have trouble with remembering the names now because of I remember Takos' name, and this was a guy that earlier, before we got out to Granite, I'm getting confused because
That's okay.
that we were on a radio relay together. He was with the squad, and we were out with a R292 antenna and a generator running on top of a hill with one squad and 3 combo guys. And after about a week out there, it was raining. Because this was towards the end of rainy season. I knew he was out there. There was somebody checking us out, and he was within here to probably about 8 feet away on the other side of a bush from my foxhole, and I was on watch. And I called the squad and said, there's somebody out there, and they kept saying, you're green, don't worry about it. Next one we came around, I should have blown my Claymore because I knew when he was below that, and there was, you couldn't hear anything, and it was pitch dark. Because of the generators running, and we found some footprints, Ho Chi Minh sandals outside the position. So they took us from there to Normandy. This was before Granite, and we got in before the people coming in, the company that was coming in. They were coming in assaulting by helicopter. And we had 2 Cobras coming in on the fire base to prep it, and we're sitting down there with all our commo equipment, and we had to call and get that call, broken off, and we're waving and we're going like this and all, and the Cobra pilots must have seen us and said, no, we don't want to prep this. So we were the first people to got that assault onto the fire base. It was just a mix-up,
Did you go out in the field much, you said? You did
that just for that radio relay for a week, and then later, during the Ripcord campaign, when we were on Ripcord, we were later placed on Ripcord. This was about June, July. No, I was with the infantry, the 2nd of 501st Infantry, and I was generally with the TOC group, which is the Tactical Operations Center. But when we were at Ripcord, we were getting mortared, rocketed, and like that. And at one time, this is a funny incident. We were sitting on the edge of our hooch, which had a blast wall about 3 feet high in front of the entrance to the bunker. And we're sitting there. It's about evening, so we figure we're safe. And a rocket went over our heads about this high. And we all went, there was 4 of us, went over the blast wall into trying to get through the opening of the hooch. And second rocket came in and hit below the blast wall and knocked it over us. And we were, we started laughing. And after it was over, it was like, it was a relief and all. And then we went out and we tried to get the artillery. There was an artillery piece right there to fire at the spot. And he says, we can't because of the fact that there's within 100 meters of that spot, there's a platoon of our people and like that. So they couldn't clear it for fire, even though we knew where it came from, because we saw the flash and then it went over our heads. But this was probably in Granite was in April. This was probably in June, July, when we were on Ripcord. I'm not exactly sure the dates. But
well, let me ask you a couple questions now. You said a lot here now. What was the hardest part of your job or the most difficult situation you faced during your tour over there?
probably the hardest part as far as physical was when I went out with the colonel on that Hill 1000 operation off of Ripcord and had to hump the radio, which is about 20 pounds with the battery in it and a couple extra batteries, my ammunition, 7 quarts of water, 1 bladder and 2 canteens, and food and all. It was, my ruck probably weighed about 90, 100 pounds. And as we were going down from Cock Mine, which was the mountain, towards Hill 1000, which we were about to assault, it was so hot, it was 105 degrees probably with, close to 100% humidity. And I was out of shape by this time from being on fire bases all this time for this kind of thing. And we got most of the way down, and I don't know if I passed out or just gave in to the heat and went down. And everybody kept going by until a medic stopped, and he says, here, he took my canteen, gave me some water, and gave me a couple salt tablets. He says, you better get up, because if you don't, we're going to leave you here. And so I got up and got to where the LZ was just before Hill 1000, where the colonel was, and he was a little angry at me because he was out of contact of course we were out of contact the whole time we were moving. And I left the radio there with my pack and all, and I kind of went down to this little hollow that was still open to the jungle below, because you had the LZ here, and then you had a saddle and Hill 1000 up at the top, and we were on that little LZ, and we started, we assaulted Hill 1000, at least some of the people, the recon squad, and I think Bravo Company began to assault Hill 1000, and we took some casualties, and we pulled back, and we called in airstrikes and all. Well, we had casualties, so we were bringing in a medevac. And the medevac was coming in to sit down, and 51 opened up along with AK fire and all on it. And we put down suppressing fire. I was sitting in this thing and in this little impression, and there was a little stump beside. And what happened was they caught the pilot through the knee, and his foot got jammed up in the controls, and it spun around, and it sat down and almost broke the skids, and it did break the tail boom, and the tail rotor hit the ground and went flying, probably as high as the ceiling over my head. And we were worried about that, and we had to hump the pilot and the wounded up to the next LZ, which was at the top of Cock Mine. And it was funny because they brought in a Chinook to pull this out. We're under fire, and they bring in a Chinook.
That was a Huey that crashed?
It was a Huey medevac. Yeah, those guys are great because they'll come in for you regardless. You tell them hot LZ, they'll come in for you. I don't know where they get their guts because they were fantastic.
They were. Yeah.
And
Are you scared during any of this time, or you just?
I'm frightened. I froze originally when I came out of my hut with my, and the things were going on at Granite. I froze, and when the guy says, get down here, I moved. I needed to be told what to do. When I was sitting in this thing while Huey's was there, I was a little scared, but I wasn't that scared until, the Huey went down. And then the Chinook came in to lift it, and the straps on the Chinook caught on that stump I was talking about. And I was scared. I'm sitting there, and this lieutenant comes over to free it. And he's looking at me like, why don't you? And suddenly bullets start hitting all around his 51 and AK. And he goes down, and he's in the bottom of this little bowl-like thing. And he's trying to get deeper. And I realized I could hear the pinging on the Chinook. And I said, I've got to get this strap off this log before this thing falls on my head. And I started to get up to go, and the the loadmaster on the Chinook cut loose the strap and dropped it, and the Chinook went back. It had been hit so bad it had to stop at ripcord. And they got it out the next day after they fixed it. But we were, I was scared, but I wasn't scared of getting shot or anything. I was scared of the thing falling on my head. Sure. And like that. And, that can, kind of did, we assaulted several more times at the, on Hill 1000, but we couldn't get through because there was a big one of those bunker complexes, approximately like you've heard about it on Hamburger Hill and all. And we decided we were going to go, I don't know who decided, we blew the Huey in place, and we moved out to a night defense position at night. And we're basically hiding in the jungle, hoping he doesn't find us, because we're not in a very good position on the side of this hill. And then the next day we humped beyond that to, I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
Humped to another position, but while we were back there, the colonel and the people in the TOC group got rid of all my food, so I could keep up. And I found when it came time to eat that I didn't have anything to eat, so I didn't say anything, and I just kept humping on, and so we went through 2 nights, and finally somebody had some mercy on me and gave me a can of spaghetti. But it was weird because at one point we were out of water, and we stopped at a stream, and everybody was filling up as they went by and then going on up. And I started up, and there was a cobra sitting there off to the side, and I was so tired and beat up at this point that I didn't care. I thought, my God, I put my hand out almost to say, come on, bite me so I can get out. But it didn't bite me. It just kind of sat there, doing what cobras do. And when the next guy came up, I pointed to it, and he says, leave him alone. We went on. And it was a funny incident because people were going by this cobra, and nobody was noticing or caring about it. We were so dog tired, and
Tell me why we're in Vietnam.
Well, I have, at the time I felt it was my duty to go. I mean, I wanted to serve like my father had served in World War II, and I wanted to see the elephant. And the reason we were in Vietnam, I felt, was because of communist aggression and like this and all. Since then, I've had some people say that, maybe that incident in Tonkin Gulf was just an excuse, et cetera, because the later incident with the ship in Korea, we didn't go into there. It was a different situation, but still. But I feel we did buy time for Thailand and all to get their stuff together and for a situation to stabilize.
Did you see people get killed or wounded? You probably referred to some things I know, but did you get to help the wounded on any of these helicopters or in and around any of the situations you were in at the time that you're in them?
Yeah, as I said, I dropped the one guy, which I'm really sad about because it scared me. It was a flashlight on the blades, and I thought it was a rocket. But I know after ripcord, after we pulled off ripcord when it blew up like a volcano, after they shot a Chinook down on the ammo dump, this was after, this is another point, but I know they brought back a guy that had been left behind in a poncho. They didn't even put him in a body bag.
Yeah.
He was in a poncho, and the animals had been at him, and they said he had apparently not gotten off. He'd hidden because of all the mortar fire and rocket fire and the enemy coming up from at the wire when the last spurts went off. He hid in a bunker, and he apparently was killed. And the animals had got to him, and they brought him back, and I had to guard him on the fire base. And they asked me, I think they were asking me to escort him back. And I didn't catch on, and because he may have been the commo guy that replaced me. I never found out. When I went to the field, they brought another commo guy out to the fire base. And, it was like, they said, afterwards they said, why didn't you go back when they took him back to the rear, why didn't you go back with that guy, with that body? And I said, I didn't know I was supposed to. And, that was the saddest part, is sitting there by that body and saying, that could be me if I'd been on ripcord, because I don't know if I'd had the courage to get on a bird that is hovering off the side of the fire base, get on while being shot at by, tough situation, the guys that got out of there last.
And you told me outside that you'd been to the Vietnam Wall.
Yes.
Can you remember the first time you were there and the emotion you had, and tell me why you went to the wall?
Well, the first time I went to the wall was in '82 when we had the parade. And the parade was great because I was in it at the rear, and the Vietnamese people at that time that had come from Vietnam had signs that said, "Thank you, Vietnam vets," and that was the most wonderful thing I'd ever had happen to me up to then. And it was just wonderful, and the other people clapping and giving us our long overdue pat on the back for what we did.
Did you have any friends on that wall that you had found their names, or?
Yes, I know there's people on that wall that were killed in Vietnam that I had a tendency to try to forget, and it worked. But I have friends from high school, Tommy Moffett, for one, that were in my class that went to Vietnam and died. I don't know which unit he was in or where he was, but that's the only one I know of, because somebody told me about him dying. And there was a guy, one of the guys on the squad when I was out on the radio relay, he got hit in the field at Re-Up Hill during the granite part of the ripcord campaign, and he died with both legs off, and like that. So I lost people I met, and I don't know how many of them didn't make it from the artillery units, because on the fire base you kind of walk around and you talk to all the people in artillery and in the TOC groups and things like that. So,
well, in your experience over there, did you encounter drugs as far as the units or the groups? You hear things?
I found that somebody brought some marijuana on the fire base, and we tried it one time. I tried it one time on the fire base, and I got so high that I don't want to do this anymore, because of the fact that if something happens, I'm going to be in no condition to handle it. When I got back to the rear. Just what happened was at the end of my tour, I was on a fire base that was very safe. It was called Brick. I think they called it Brick because that's where they sent units to rest and repair and like that. And you just goofed off basically. There was a river around it, and it was on top of a mountain. It wasn't going to get hit very, very easily. And I was getting short. I realized I had a month to go, and I started shaking. And somebody came out and saw me sitting there shaking, and they said, "You're finished." I think it was the first sergeant or sergeant major, and he says, "I'm sending you back to the rear." And I got on the bird out of there, and they sent me back to the rear. And when I got back to the rear, they put me in the camo platoon deck, where a lot of people were hiding out that had come up from other units that were broken up down south, where they'd been sitting around for a couple months not doing anything. And we had some heroin addicts and some, I had noticed for the last 3 or 4 months as units from the south came, that the caliber of the people had gone down because of drugs. And there wasn't so much out in the field and on the fire base, but in the rear, people were smoking all the time. And as I said, we had heroin addicts. That's the first time I experienced that, heroin addicts that were sitting there snorting or smoking and in cigarettes and all. And I did a little bit more marijuana there, but like I said, it pushes me away from it. It isn't my cup of tea. And what was sad was that I was there for about 10 days, and they gave me and some other people, like that sergeant that I was on Granite with, they had gone back to the rear and left me running the commo on the hills. We got an early out, and we left Vietnam on the 20th. Well, the unit a little earlier than that, but I left Vietnam on the 22nd out of Cameron, even though I got in there January 3rd of the same year. And they sent me home, and I got off the plane on the 24th in SeaTac or whatever, McCord Air Force Base. And they sent us up to Fort...
Forward?
No, this was in Washington State, Fort Lewis, and we got our first steak dinner, first hot shower I'd had in a year, and the first steak dinner, and I got deathly sick eating. And after a year of occasional hot chow, but mainly sea rations. And then the last week I was eating hot chow, but not much. And it was just too rich a food for me. And when I got home, went to the SeaTac airport, and I came home. They had us come home in khakis, and then they had us change into Class A's without any kind of... not even her name on them, and put on a thing to go to the airport to go home. And I went home to my family, and I got off the plane, and I called my father, and he was surprised because nobody knew I was coming home that early. They expected me in January, and he hugged me, and and he said his comment was, "How did someone like you get in an outfit like the 101st?" So I felt I had his respect, and we went home. Now I still had a year to serve because I enlisted for 3. And that was a good thing in some ways because they sent me out to a unit in Fort Carson, Colorado that they had the new barracks was all the new people that were coming in, the Volar Army, the Volunteer Army, and they had these 3 old sets of barracks with units there that were mainly Vietnam vets returning with 6 months to a year to serve. And there was some bad attitudes. But what was sad was that I was unlike the people that just got off and went to civilian life, I was able to talk through some things with people there, and that helped immensely. Though it did kind of turn me against the war for a while. But as I said, I've come to a realization that things seem to always work out for the best. And as I said, we bought some time.
What does freedom mean to you, Bill?
This is freedom. Being able to talk about things and not have anybody, looking over your shoulder or, like that. To an extent, the patriotic scares me, but I can understand reasons for and against it and like that. But I feel that service is good to your country in some form, to your people. But freedom means that people can do what they want to as long as they don't hurt anybody else. And more or less you can worship as you please, you can talk about what you want to, you can say things as long as they're not going to hurt anybody, that you want to.
What about the price for freedom, the cost? What would you tell a young person who takes their freedoms for granted about the price or the cost for freedom?
The price of freedom is very high. It's my nephew is presently in the Marines. In a month, he's going to Iraq. It scares me. And the guys now are paying a huge price too. And for those that are out there that don't know what that price is, I say, be happy in your freedom, but don't be slack in your freedom. Don't not appreciate what you have and work to keep it in some form. Vote, do community services, something, give back, because that's what these people are doing for you, is that they are protecting you. And freedom has, as they say, has a taste for those that have given for it, that the protected don't know. That's the quote, but misquoted very badly.
What would your message be to Vietnam vets that are going to watch this?
I'd say forgive me for my weaknesses, and bless you all.
What about the American flag? What does that mean and represent to you as a veteran?
It is the people. It is the Constitution. It is me. It is all that have served. It's this shared sacrifice of those that have fought for it. It's the shared sacrifice of those that have died for it. It's what is the symbol of what we are today and will be in tomorrow. And I just hope it's always a symbol of good and justice.
Are you proud that you're a Vietnam vet?
Very proud. I wasn't at one time. I was very, very down on myself and on the war. And then like everything else, you grow and you come to understandings and you realize everybody has to sacrifice in this life. And Vietnam veterans sacrificed a lot. And I can only say that I am so proud of our generation of vets that we said that another generation of vets would never, never be forgotten.
How does it feel when people thank you for your service?
You can see the tears. It's just, I love it. I try to thank those that are serving now when I see them, and thank those in the past. It's just what you should do, because it's where you sacrifice for a greater good. And that is important, because, as I said, it's freedom. As they say, freedom isn't free, and it isn't easily attained.
So true. One more question. What should our country remember about Vietnam?
All of it, from the good, the bad, and the ugly. That they should remember how it was begun, how it was fought, what happened here in the States. I tend to love history, and I feel that you should learn from history, lest you make the same mistakes or not make the right choices. That sometimes you have to make the tough choices, and the tough choices sometimes get people hurt or killed. And that's, you should never go into a war lightly, but you should never shun war that is needed. It's like a balancing act. And if I had my way, it'd be a veteran in charge all the time, for the simple fact that someone that has combat experience is less likely to commit people to that unless they feel really strongly and have the knowledge that it is an important and necessary thing to do.
I don't usually ask questions like this. Just quickly, who do you want to become the next president?
I don't know. They all have strengths.
You mentioned military. Who's got the military experience?
McCain has the military experience, and I think he'll take care of the veterans of the present conflict quite well. I think that the other two will take care of the veterans, but I don't know if they have the experience to know when to commit or not to commit.
This is crazy stuff.
I'm sorry.
One other thing too, before you finish, he's an Agent Orange.
Mm-hmm.
He got sprayed and he's continuing to lose his friends to the.
Yeah, I'm going to ask him about that.
Okay,
That's good.
okay.
Yeah, let's comment on it. Tell me what Agent Orange is and your exposure to it and the effects of it years later.
Well, I was on a fire base. It was fire-based brick, believe it or not. And I was in an area that was heavily sprayed by fixed wing before I got there and while I was there. But this one helicopter flew around spraying the area, and we were eating. And the spray's coming down on the food, and we're eating it because we're young and dumb. And we left that fire base about 2 or 3 days later, and we went somewhere else, and we came back to that one a month or two later, and everything around it was dead, all the trees and stuff. And, it dawned on us that they were killing the trees, and we thought that was a great thing because we had fields of fire. Since that time, I have lost several friends to Agent Orange. I was in a group down at VA Hospital, and VA Hospital was, it was PTSD groups and all back in the 80s, and out of the 20 or so people that I knew in those groups, most, all but, I can only account for 4 or 5 of them still alive. We lost some to suicide. That's what I like about the memorial, the wall, having that plaque that says for those that have died since the war of injuries. I had a friend that was in the Air Force that sprayed by hand that just died about, 2 years ago. Tony Bertoni of Agent Orange. Bruce, a friend that I knew, died about 1990 something and of Agent Orange.
What was it for? Tell me why they use Agent Orange.
Well, they used it to clear fields of fire, to clear out areas, to deny the use of the area to the enemy. They used it even around base camps just to clear the brush, I think, because
The foliage or whatever, it got rid of the.
yeah, so that they had fields of fire just outside the base, and I'm not sure they didn't use it on the bases just to clear foliage, but I'm not sure of that. But Agent Orange and the guys that, like it's a funny thing that I've been in contact with those that are not doing well, and with those through the 101st Association that are doing well, and as we have people that are very, very prominent and all, and they're retiring now, as a matter of fact. And we have people that are having trouble still.
Post-traumatic stress? Have you been diagnosed with that at all? Or not?
I have not been diagnosed, but I get the dreams. You can ask my wife. I wake up sometimes. Matter of fact, my bad time is coming between March and July, August.
Well, when I watched the movie yesterday, I watched you a couple times, and when Lee Alley was talking about turning the switch off and the nights are the worst, you seemed like you could relate to that.
Yes, I could. That happens. It's like I'll kick her, or I'll, or almost push her out of the bed or something like that, rolling around and fighting. I don't know what. Usually I wake up and I don't remember it. That's the nice thing compared to earlier in my life when I woke up. At one time I drank a lot to put myself out, just to put myself out. But I've never been as such diagnosed to PTSD. I have another problem that has been diagnosed that I am retired out of the Air Force for.
I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. At the end of my interviews, you saw it yesterday, I'm going to ask you to give me a salute in the camera when I tell you. Hold on. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, from where you're seated. Okay, Bill, right into the camera. Go ahead, anytime. All right, good salute.